Hello there and welcome to a God is a Geek preview for Resident Evil 4, the new one, the remake one, the one I played sometime last year, a small version of, which we, and I say we because I'm joined by Lyle Carr. Hello Lyle.
Hello.
We have got to see a lot more of it than I was expecting to see. How do we do this without just sounding like hype masters, Lyle?
We're not going to be able to, is the answer, I'm afraid. It was getting to see around 20 minutes, essentially, almost, of this game has just made me so much more excited than I already was. And I was already very excited. This was definitely one of the games I was most anticipating this year, because Resident Evil 4 back, playing it on the GameCube originally and all that, it was my first Resident Evil. And I love it. I loved it then. I've loved it every time I've replayed it, and everything it looks like they're doing in this remake just seems to be making it better, really.
So let's talk about what we've had the chance to see. Because I played. You can watch another preview on the channel of sort of the early part of the game.
Yeah, sort of like mainly the sort of what I'd consider like the second act would be where we sort of joined the game really in this video. But yeah, we got to see sort of the first parts of the video, which sort of showed just when you've got the boat and you're able to start going around the lake, which already looks much more open and sort of introduced us to things like finding side quests that you can that you can apparently do. That I think the one that was shown in the video was like to collect a golden egg for someone. So, one of the very good healing items from the game originally, like that seems to be some sort of side quest. We got to see the merchant.
Yeah, it was interesting that was, because I think people are going to go, what, so they've taken that line out? I think they're deliberately not showing that line.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's
but
got to be there.
But even just his voice acting in general is very interesting. He's certainly very different this time around. But yeah, his character seems... even just from watching Leon like customize his guns and be in the shop menu, he seems to have like a lot of different voice lines and a lot of things to sort of say that makes him feel a bit more of a fleshed out character almost than sort of a stand-in of just says two lines and is a bit iconic, which I guess he was originally. But after that we saw sort of more of the action. I think the thing that really stands out in terms of like the gameplay, in terms of fighting, mutants and not zombies, I think, but essentially zombies, was how much they've kind of evolved it in terms of using melee combat, but in very significant ways. Like, it obviously has all the sort of usual, you try and get stuck in when an enemy's a bit stunned, but they've got things like shooting the leg to make the enemies sort of kneel down so you've got an opportunity to attack, and there's a lot in the way of parrying incoming attacks and being able to block damage, like if you time it right, by the looks of things, like in terms of even things like when the big mutant heads swing at you, being able to sort of like deflect incoming damage. And that was always something where, like, if you had something like that coming close to you in the original game, you'd just be taking damage, and it'd probably be quite a lot of it, really. Like, that would be something you'd be avoiding at all costs, whereas it seems like really you kind of have more control over like not taking that damage, and it probably means that there'll be more situations that have more enemies, I'd assume.
Well, that's something I did pick up on, and I think I mentioned in the previous preview video when I got to play it, is that even that opening sort of village, it just felt like so many. Yeah. Now, I didn't pick up on the knees thing until seeing this footage. I did pick up on like the stealth in this game, and they did let us see a bit of the stealth aspect. That I picked up on, and it's deliberate. Very early in the game, you can creep up and stealth kill someone, and that's very deliberately, I think, there to be like, you can do this. Because another thing I don't think they focused on in the new footage is the durability aspect of the knife. You can see it, but I wonder if that's because I know what it is.
I can't say that.
There's a tiny little bar, like a tiny bar, and it's like, I know what that is because I've seen that explained, so to speak. So I wonder if you're in a situation like the ones we've seen here, where you haven't got any knife, or you haven't, fixed your knife or whatever, and that's going to be something, it's difficult. That's going to be difficult because, but there's a lot that I thought they don't show, but you can see. Like I noticed, I don't know if you spotted this in we got to see some of the sort of castle rampant stuff and the cannons and all that explodey stuff. There's a lot of those because I'd forgotten about them in Resi 4. There's obviously like targets. They've done this forever now. The little blue discs.
Yeah.
And they were deliberately not shooting them. They're very visible. Like I was like, there's one there and there, and like they are deliberately not shooting them. So I don't know if they're trying to keep stuff secret, but like, that was, it was there.
But they're there, aren't they? We know.
100% there,
yeah. There's so much. There's going to be so much. I mean, there was already so much depth originally, but then when you get into stuff like, there seems to be charms you can put on your briefcase now that give you little buffs. We only got to see it for a moment, but there was, I think he equipped like a chicken charm that meant that eggs heal you more, and just weird little buffs like that. But it's a cool thing to be able to, just customize that little bit more. You could also store items in the typewriter. That wasn't something you could do back in the day, I don't believe.
There was a lot of that. I think sometimes, like, so when you see it, a remake of a really beloved game like Resident Evil 4, there's kind of only one way you can do it, and I think making the smart changes so far seems really cool. But it does that wonderful thing of I'm looking at this going, what's that there?
I did that a lot.
Yeah, and like it might have been, but I think it's because it seems so different and new. And look, but I mean, it goes probably without saying, but we should say it anyway, that it looks and sounds incredible.
Yeah, absolutely breathtaking in both regards. Like when approaching that castle scene, and there being like so much more like the lighting just being so much more atmospheric, and it just makes everything seem all the more sinister. And we got to see that sequence with the catapults from the original game, and just like the flames and everything. Like it felt very oppressive, and it really helped build up that tension really that these situations should probably have. And Ashley was there too. I haven't quite gotten over how different Ashley sort of looks and sounds and feels as a character, but I do think it's a positive change realistically. And then in the remake now as well, they seem to have things where you can on the fly tell her to be near you or further away.
Because there's icons, and there seems to be an icon in the bottom right that changes. So I reckon you must be able to tell her, like you say, to
I believe it's like it looked like it was sort of like a push of a button. Is basically just get out of the way. I'm going to do something where there might be some like explosions or shit like that, or like get close and stay near me so I can keep an eye on you basically. But like even just this small change where like looking after Ashley in the original game was definitely could be one of the more irritating aspects of the game. Like usually if there was a tough sequence coming up, it would be like, is there a bin she can go hide in? Essentially, just get her out of the way. I want to like not have to focus on that. Whereas here, just that little quality of life change that seems like it should make those situations just sort of less frustrating and maybe a bit more seamless.
She's definitely still grabbable, because there was a few bits I noticed where they grabbed her and you had to shoot her. I wonder how long you get, because I can't remember it. Again, I can't remember a lot about it. But yeah, we're very, very excited to play the full version of this. Like, I've started to wonder how big it's going to be as well. Like, how long is this game going to be now? It just seems like all of a sudden more of a tentpole release from Capcom than it did before, which is mad because it's Resident Evil 4. But it just seems like suddenly seeing this, it just seems huge.
It does. Like when you start to think about adding in different objectives and just the idea of it maybe being that little bit more backtrackable and explorable, whereas originally like it was pretty much a linear game. Like you could go back and forth to certain bits if you wanted to maybe look for those little blue discs, for example, and stuff like that. But really, you were following a path, and maybe you'd go back down to somewhere you'd already been before a few times in the game. But like you were essentially following, the critical path, and it seems like that certainly won't be all you do this time around, so it could be, significantly longer, really.
Go and read more about Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 4 Remake and the original. There's a few articles about the original, actually, on GodIsAGeek.com. Do subscribe, hit the bell. We'll see you soon. See you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.